Okay, so anytime you collect data, you are going to have measurement error because you can never collect data perfectly. Even as much as you practice it, even as reliable and valid your instrument is, you are going to have some error. And so there's two types of error. You have direct measurement, or you have direct measurement. So you have measurement that is direct. This is not as subjective. So if I put my hand on your pulse and I measure your heart rate, that's a very direct measure. Or if I put a heart rate monitor on you, it's a very direct measure. If I'm watching a person and I'm watching their behavior, that's a direct measure. Versus indirect measures are more subjective. Okay, so I'll give you a survey and I'll tell you how motivated are you today, and I have 20 questions that are dealing with motivations. It's indirect. It's indirect. It's more subjective. So when we talk about measurement error, it is the difference between the actual measure and the number that you are using. And he uses a pretty good example. So if you weigh yourself and you know in reality you weigh 80 kilograms, all right? I know that's British. But your scale says that you weigh 83 kilograms, then there's a 3 kilogram discrepancy in that. And so the same thing can happen when you do a survey. So you can measure somebody's motivation and they can say, yes, I'm highly motivated. It's a subjective measure because maybe 30 minutes later somebody spills coffee on them and then they're not so motivated. All right. So sometimes direct and indirect measures have measurement error that can be small or large, and your whole goal when you're collecting data is to try to reduce that amount of error. Because again, why do I want less error? Because I want to take my data and I want to explain to the public or the population, I collected the data this way and I had the least amount of error because I had good control. So this is sometimes where you hear people talk about, do you have good control over your research? In other words, did you control the amount of error that you could potentially have had?